The Denver Broncos have dominated the sports landscape of the Rocky Mountain West for 5 decades as one of the most successful franchises in the NFL. The Broncos embody the soul and spirit of the West, but it has never just been about memorable moments and great players. It is about symbolism as well, and one of the key elements of that is thunder. Thunder is as much a part of the mystique and aura of the Broncos as is our mile-high altitude. White like the Colorado snow, possessed of dignity, grace, power, and speed, few mascots in all of sport typify the heart and soul of their team as Thunder does for the Denver Broncos. Generations of fans in the stands, national television audiences, and Broncos as well as opposing players know about the great white stallion who runs in the Rockies when the Broncos score again. This is the story of Thunder. Since the inception of the Broncos, there were times when the Broncos had cheerleaders, and they were kind of the hokey kind of outfits from the 60s and so forth. And then we also had a little mascot once, a little miniature horse. And John Beek, our general manager, had been in Kansas City for years, and they had war paint, which was a spotted horse that someone would ride when they scored. And it was suggested, I believe by John, that we have a white stallion as a mascot right up and down the field.
Sharon Magnus Blake and her husband at the time, Bob Magnus, owned Arabian horse ranches, not only in Colorado, but also in California. They were also big philanthropists in the community, very well known, and huge supporters of the Broncos. So a phone call was made, and the answer was yes. No questions asked, yes, we'll do it. Yes, we want to be involved.
John B. called me and said, "Hey, Sharon, do you have a horse that maybe you'd like to be the Denver Broncos mascot?" I said, "Absolutely." I said, "I have exactly the right horse. It's a white horse." He said, "Okay, can we come see him?" I said, "Absolutely." So I called my trainer at the time and said, "I have the opportunity of a lifetime," and I told him about it, and he said, "I'm not doing that." And I said, "What? What do you mean you're not doing that?" So the guy, the trainer, takes the horse to the field for a preseason game. And no saddle, just the halter, lead rope, and he's still thinking he doesn't want to do this. Leads the horse out onto the field. The horse takes one look at the crowd, rears, and the crowd goes crazy. He says, "I can do this."
Everyone was a little bit nervous about the debut of Thunder. We had not had a horse in recent years right up and down the field. Everyone was very concerned about the grass, the turf, and especially how this was all going to work. So in the old stadium, in old Mile High Stadium, Thunder actually did a loop around the field once the Broncos scored because our sidelines were so tight. The stadium was set up much differently. We were concerned about players running on the field and how to avoid and all of those things.
I was scared to death. And he did great. He was so full of himself, and he just knew what he was doing, and he would take the rider down the field.
Well, I do remember the debut of it, and I believe during the pregame warm-ups, Thunder was running around, and at one point, almost ran into backup quarterback Tommy Maddox as he was walking off the field, and you could see it happen. He was walking off the field, minding his business. He didn't expect a stallion to come by, and just whoosh, right in front of him there was Thunder, and he was kind of taken aback, and everybody put their heads together really quick and said, "Well, we better structure this a little more so that doesn't happen again."
It all worked out, and it became a tradition for the Broncos.
John Beek said, "We're going to call him Thunder," and I said, "Okay." And he said, "The next one we're going to call Lightning." I said, "Okay." But then the Broncos decided, Thunder Country and Thunder Vision, so we've just kept all 3 Thunder.
It was brilliant, and we all applaud John for that name.
I've been doing this is my 17th season, and my predecessor was a wonderful gal, but just a young gal, and she was an amateur rider. After this gal started having a few issues on the field, Sharon called me one time and said, "We're having a little trouble. Would you mind taking over the rider duties on the Broncos field?" And I went, "Are you kidding me?" Oh my gosh. That first season was definitely a pretty steep learning curve for me Because as I said, even though I've been a competitor for years and years, and this has been my business for years and years, this was really stepping into unfamiliar territory to me.
There is no Thunder without Annie in the training. You can't take a horse off the street. As she builds confidence with the horse and the horse gets confidence in her, it then runs smoothly down the field. And when there's something that they don't understand, they look to see whether you're comfortable with it. And if Annie or Sharon are comfortable with it, they'll be comfortable with it.
Each one of these 3 Thunders have been very different, have had different behaviors on the field, have had different things that have bothered them or that have, that they've totally ignored.
I mean, what we're doing, you have to have a well-trained horse to do that.
I really discovered that there were a lot of things that I didn't know, and I really had to start listening to what the horses were telling me. And when I really started tuning into what they were telling me, that's what enabled me to help these horses do this job down on the field that they love.
The current Thunder is 14.3 hands tall and weighs about 950 pounds. Thunder is in his 22nd season riding at Broncos home games.
The game day process starts in the morning with, if the horse is here or the horse is at Annie's house, one of us has to polish it, make it clean, add the powder where you need powder, grooming him, getting him up to speed.
Annie rides him that day, and then load him up in the trailer, and the trailer of course has Thunder, so people are honking and all excited to see the horse.
We get to the field about 2.5 hours early.
We have our team just goes to work unloading all of his gear. He's like a child. He's got his bucket, his blankets, and his gear. And so we just unload everything, let him relax a little bit. We go out and check the field, see what things look like. And then we take him up top. They lay mats for us through the tunnel. We take him up and we do autographs.
Thunder is a huge part of the game day experience. Before the game, he has his own corral set up, and we say he does autographs before the game, but the crowd loves to come out, take photos with him, just pet his mane, see him up close, see what a beautiful animal he is.
And that's the fun part, because kids come up to the horse and they want to pet him, they want to touch him, they want to ask questions, Annie signs autographs.
Then we're out there for a while, and then we come back in. We go through the schedule directly. We go through each of our responsibilities and what we're going to do.
And we saddle him up, and then we take him out for warm-ups. And we have, there's a script this big for the whole game. We're just a little part of it. And so we just follow our script when we can practice.
They go out in the field, normally just before the players leave the field, and that gives them, as soon as the players do leave the field, an opportunity to exercise the horse.
And then Annie does game ball.
And these years, the Broncos have folks who have been, you can imagine, since the very beginning in the 60s, ticket holders. And they're the ones that typically get the honor of getting the game ball. So Thunder runs across the field, and Annie tosses them the ball.
And then we go into the tunnel. And then once we're in the tunnel, we're in there about 7 minutes.
Sharon is the eyes, because I can't be, so she makes sure that everything in the tunnel looks good and that they have already done the testing with the dry ice and all that stuff. And then once she says it's good, then she waves us over, and so we get into that tunnel. And our first walk in, it's the most casual part, I suppose, of the tunnel, because the cheerleaders are on either side, and they're, fired up. They're laughing and preparing and talking with one another, and they greet us. And so we walk through the herd of cheerleaders, and then we turn around and take our position directly behind them on the wall.
My job during that is to be out on the field, moving the photographers out of the way, so that they all want to get the very best picture of the horse running on the field. And that means straight in front of the horse, which is not a good result. So I move them to the side, one side or the other, just so that it's a fair, safe lane of travel for Annie and the horse when she runs on the field.
And then the team comes in, and they're very fired up. And they love that a horse is part of their team that is going to lead them out, but at the same time, it's not their concern whether Thunder's frightened at all. So they're back there going, woo, woo, kind of jumping up and down. And
Annie has even said she feels him, when she's riding him, she can feel him. He starts to move, he starts to tap his foot, he gets ready. And when the players are actually behind him on game day, they start to chant, they start to get pumped up, and Thunder starts to stomp his foot and get ready to go.
So then the next thing is the music that the cheerleaders parade out to. So that's when we come off the wall and kind of get ourselves into running position. And all of the Thunders, they know that they're gonna be running. So they're great, but they're very attentive. I can feel them, and their ears are like this. And I can feel their hearts kind of beating. So I know that they know they're ready to run. They set off the dry ice. And again, I'm attentive to making sure that those external things are happening in the way that they're supposed to happen.
The cheerleaders go out, they do their dance, and then comes our moment, and it's go Thunder. We let go, and through he goes.
Seeing Thunder run through the tunnel is always a thrill. He is not just trotting. He is going at almost full speed, as safe as he can, but it is a sight. And just to see the team run out behind him, it is part of the Broncos game day. It's a huge part of our build up to the kickoff.
And then we walk back, take them back to the tunnel, let them in a stall, relax a little bit. And then somebody cues us, okay, they're getting ready to play, we're receiving or we're not, and head out to the game.
During the game, we stay in the end zone at the south end of the field, right next to the visitors' tunnel.
He has his own crowd of fans out there, and when they walk after Thunder runs down the field after we score.
And then here comes Thunder, and that's just the exclamation point, the cherry on top of the touchdown cake. And I've often thought to myself that if I'm on the other side, that's a very dispiriting moment for me. It's a great moment for us.
And they walk him back. The fans line the walls of the stadium just to high-five the rider, say hello to Thunder, and interact with the crowd. It is a very important part of the game.
Next in our story, we take a look at those signature moments that Thunder was such a big part of. Up first, Peyton makes Thunder work on opening night 2013.
I walk past Sharon and Ernie and Annie and Thunder and their whole crew 5 or 6 times during the game, and probably about after the 4th run, Sharon's like, he's getting his workout today. And then I passed him again after the 6th run. She's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I don't know if he's gonna run down there again. And then to hear Peyton Manning in the press conference after.
I might have to give old Thunder an IV after this one. So, yeah.
It was just so funny, I gave Thunder his workout today. So it was just a great tie-in to, the quarterback noticing what else goes on game day. It's not just about scoring all the time, it's about all of the different things that go into the game entertainment experience, and Thunder running down the field 7 times. So it was a pretty cool tie-in.
It was so sweet. I mean, that was just so touching. I mean, that was a record time for us to run down the field, but for him to acknowledge the horse, I mean, we're just a small part of the team, and I thought that was really sweet.
He doesn't miss anything. He's very quick, very knowledgeable, and for him to acknowledge that Thunder even exists, it is exciting for us, but it's not surprising because he doesn't miss very much.
When Peyton Manning says it at a press conference, it's better than in a TV commercial. Heck, we try to find a way to move past the commercials, but we don't move past the real live comments that are made by superstar people. That was really cool, and I think it's one of those things too. That was also went national, ESPN and everything, and the announcers said, oh, you saw little spots here and there where they said, hey, the Broncos have Thunder, and Peyton Manning made this comment, which I think is really neat. I love the idea that, Pat Bowles used to say, we're that team that wears the funny orange uniforms and plays up in the mountains. Now, he was only half kidding, but the point is there are things that give you your identity. We are the team that wears orange, we play a mile high, and we have Thunder, and everybody knows it.
call the president. President, we need a National Guard. We need as many men as you can spare because we are killing the Patriots. Please help these folks. They're coming. Help is on the way.
Shannon Sharpe has a huge personality and so much character. And for Shannon, it's not just about football on the field, it's about everything that goes on within the game. He has a huge love for Thunder. It's definitely not surprising that Shannon Sharpe ran over and gave Thunder a kiss.
When Shannon kissed the horse, he was just this, I mean, when the helmet's coming at him, I can't imagine what he was thinking. But Shannon, during the Super Bowl parade, Shannon got on the horse.
And then to ask to actually get on Thunder and ride Thunder right before the Super Bowl parade was pretty funny. And Sharon never lets anyone ride Thunder, so it's pretty special. How are you going to say no to Shannon Sharpe?
Everybody knows who Thunder is. The players know who Thunder is too. The players also think it's cool and they like it. And for Shannon to kiss Thunder, that's very natural, but I can almost go one more. You know, we sell these foam Thunder heads in the gift shop. They're this big white head. Well, Shannon got one. And after a game in our locker room, he put on the Thunder head and I don't know what to say, he was running around the locker room like a horse after one of our victories, wearing the Thunder head. Next, Thunder is shipped via FedEx to New Jersey to lead the Broncos on the field at Super Bowl 48.
Well, the first two Super Bowls, we were able to haul the horse across country. And then we had planned on that. We had actually had a whole plan of, loading the horse and a big road trip. But I looked at the weather, it was polar vortex across the country. Everything was frozen, there was snow. We don't have a heated trailer. There was no way we could keep him comfortable, let alone drive across all that snow and ice. So I said, we're gonna have to fly the horse. And Ernie said, what?
Initially, we thought we would just drive him. I, with a couple of other people, would take turns and drive him across the country. And then the horrible winter cold and storms came through at that particular time, and it was apparent we couldn't drive him. And the plans that we made were to fly him. It turns out there is a transporter in the United States who transports the Olympian horses, transports other horses that are in shows or racing around the country. And they have a contract with FedEx to do their domestic travel for horses.
So we FedExed the horse. And it sounded all great when you're making all the arrangements, it's like, okay, we do this, we put him in a box, and don't worry, he's fine. Well, it all sounds good on paper until you actually do it. And Annie sent me a photo at 5 o'clock in the morning when she's getting on the airplane. And I'm thinking, oh my God, he's actually getting on an airplane.
Annie and Sharon refused to let the horse go without somebody who he knew being with him. So Annie agreed to do it and did, and flew with him. And I'm sure that was more comforting for the horse because he sees her every day and there's a mutual love there.
We went to the airport early. The airplane comes in, we watch it land, we watch it taxi up. And so now the door comes down and out slides this box and they've painted on it, Super Bowl bound. And now the top comes down, and there's Annie and Thunder, and I couldn't, they're fine. He looks like he hasn't done anything but come in and out. And he looks down and he's like, hey, Mom, And so I was crying. I was so excited he was safe.
So they told us, oh, no, don't worry about the horse, this will be fine. We do this all the time, this is just routine stuff. Well, routine or not, there were about 20 or 25 FedEx employees there to see the horse. So it wasn't just routine. This guy is special.
Part of my experience was as a horse girl and getting to prepare that horse for what we wanted to be a really wonderful experience for him, because we didn't ever want him to be so amped up that, because walking a horse down the streets of New York City, that's a big deal. Taxis and people and everything going every which way, and we were walking him in the streets with those, the steam, and it was like a movie. And then the other, if you want to call it a high spot for me, and it's the thing that I talk about with people more than anything else, was coming out of the tunnel, because he runs through the tunnel of cheerleaders with the power going off. He's cantering, and each time he switches leads is because there's something going boom, and then boom, and then boom. So when I got off of him, I remember I just hugged him and went, for a creature who's a flight creature to have that kind of faith in me, a person who told him it was going to be okay. That was overwhelming to me. See, it still does that to me.
And who can forget Peyton's 509th touchdown pass?
Number one, what an honor. That was such a great night, such a great moment. And to be a part of NFL history, that was huge. And then the fact that it was on an Arabian horse, which is, part of my whole life motivation. It's almost too much to absorb sometimes. He was beautiful and happy, and his ears were up, and his tail was flagged, and his mane was flying, and the 509 flag was draped out just like it was supposed to be.
But the 509 was special. That was special for Peyton, and really special that we were able to carry that flag.
It'll be part of Bronco lore and part of Bronco highlights as long as we show highlights of Peyton Manning's record-setting touchdown pass. Sharon and her late husband Bob Magnus once owned 900 Arabian horses. There have been 3 horses who have ridden with the stage name of Thunder. For those closest to Thunder, he is so much more than a show horse.
Yeah, these horses have the intellect that allow them to do a lot of different jobs. But then taking that a step further, not only are they intellectual creatures, but they also have very unique and separate personalities. And they all 3 are very personable with all the people. They love kids.
Children love Thunder, and Thunder hosts a Christmas party every year for about 300 underprivileged children. And it's in the club level of the stadium, and Thunder comes through with his Santa hat on, and all the kids get to pet him and touch him and take photos with him.
We get the same variety that you'd get in any session where something for the first time is happening to a child. They're unabashed in their comments. So a lot of them say, is that a real horse? A lot of the kids that we expose them to in the inner cities have never seen a horse and never certainly been close to a real horse. And so they wonder. They're amazed at how soft and smooth his skin is.
His hair is so soft.
And I don't know what they expect, but they like it, they enjoy just touching him. And we let them touch him. These horses are wonderful. The training that Annie's done with them is such that not only do they abide kids, they like them. They will lean their heads down to allow a small child to touch them. Pretty neat.
Every time Thunder is around, representing the Broncos at anything, Sharon and Ernie encourage people to pet the horse, touch the horse, look at the horse. They hand out photographs of the horse. Now, they're not doing this for a profit. There is no profit in this. This is just one of those goodwill things. And it reaches out to so many people. And he's such a beautiful, elegant animal. I absolutely think he's part of our fabric, and he's a magical part of that. Part of the mystique of playing the Broncos in Denver is that big white horse, Thunder. But when you think about it, Thunder's an animal, and this is a really large crowd. And as you said, all those elements are in play. That's an amazing thing to think. There's never been one incident really where Thunder was not able to perform. Thunder was too nervous. Thunder, ran the wrong way. That's an amazing thing, and that's a compliment actually not just to Thunder, but to his whole team.
Annie has trained Thunder so well. From the very beginning, they have piped noise into an indoor arena. They have borrowed cheerleader pom-poms to wave in his face. They have painted the ground to look like a football stadium because horses are colorblind. So at first, when he would run across the field and he would see a number, he thought it was a hole. So they have done everything to prepare the horse for every scenario that he could possibly have on game day. So it's no surprise to me, and I know a lot of people are surprised, and he's so well trained and managed by Annie and Sharon. He has a great team around him, and so he is able to perform at a high level for the Broncos on game day.
In his 22 seasons with the Broncos, Thunder has been responsible for creating lifelong friendships.
You talk about that, the ripple effect, that there's this one stone, and I think of the horse as being the stone and then all of the ripples that have grown from that horse being the motivator and the initiator of people basically getting together.
Annie is known all over the world for her skills as an equestrian, as a trainer, and as a rider. She's a world champion in her own right.
I don't think there is another person I would trust as well as Annie to do this. There's always a challenge, and we challenge ourselves. Can we do this? Or somebody in the Broncos will say, hey, could you do this? And I'm like, sure. And then we have to figure out how we're gonna do it. But she is such a good rider, and she has such a good communication with that horse that he will stop on a dime for her. People become very special to you because you have to depend on them. And you depend on them in circumstances sometimes that are just so exciting you can't believe it, or so dangerous that you can't believe it. And so, yeah, you form very special friendships with people that you work with on the field.
Sharon and Ernie are so special to me, as well as Thunder. I mean, working with someone for 21 years and experiencing Broncos football and game day and Super Bowls together, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes, so much communication, logistics, fun, stories, all of those things that, you know, it's a lifetime of memories and a lifetime of friendship that I will always have with them.
I think that Sharon is such a deep, warm, rich human being, and the city, the state, the community means so much to her. The Broncos mean so much to everybody that I think, I don't want to speak for her, I can't, but I think providing the Broncos mascot is a neat thing for Sharon, and just like it's a neat thing for us that our horse, Thunder, comes from a ranch here in Colorado. He's not imported from someplace else on game day. Just like the Broncos are part of Denver and Colorado, so too is Thunder. That's really part of the story of Thunder.
Going on 22 years of Thunder in the stadium is amazing. They are a huge part of the team. It's not just about football anymore, it's the entire experience. From, you know, the time the fans get out of their cars, enter the stadium, it's the big entertainment package, and Thunder is a huge part of that, huge part of the game day experience, and our fans love him. So they're more than a small part of the experience. They are a huge part of game day.
Thunder's pretty special. Thunder's such an important part of everything we do.
How long will you do it?
As long as we can.